We're so happy. Welcome, welcome. And thrilled to open our summer 2024 exhibits. We have Mitzi Jo Gordon standing by in Port Townsend, Washington. She's going to be joining us from on Zoom for the Azalea group. But before I introduce everybody, I'll just give you a rundown of the evening. And that is, we have all of the shows represented, with the exception of Let It Rain, which I'm wondering by show of hands how many Let It Rain artists are in the audience. Fantastic! We had over 114 entries for Let It Rain. And you know what? It worked, guys. We got the rain! We got the rain all week. We got the rain this afternoon before the opening. Everybody got in without getting doused, and so, wow, that's magic. And I feel like all of the shows kind of speak to one another. Well, I would say all of the shows, but certainly Leslie Neumann's we're reviewing here, our wonderful Azalea installation, which references sort of mystical sacred Florida. And I encourage everyone, if you haven't been into the galleries, of course you're going to make your rounds afterwards, but that's an installation in the Gamble Family Gallery. And then we have Joan Duff Bohrer's show down in the Douglas Whitley, and we have her curator, Marjorie Green-Graff, who will speak on behalf of Joan's show. So what we're going to do is sort of go show by show with those represented, and everybody has, get your stopwatches out, 8 minutes here, and then we're going to move on because we want to have time for Q&A at the end, because there's always great questions. And so Nathan, everybody, if you don't know Nathan Beard, pretty much every single piece you see in every one of the galleries, Nathan is responsible for hanging. And I didn't mean to bypass, we have the 100 Women project, and I don't know if Alicia Campos Massó is here. She probably will be joining us. She was the curator, and that show's in its 3rd iteration. So how many people have a piece in the 100 Women? Yes! So Heather River is going to speak on behalf of that project. So we have oodles of juicy stuff to talk about tonight. And I just want to take a bow to Nathan Beard, who has been my beloved colleague for
long enough.
And I thought we were going to lose him for a very good reason. His wife was accepted into medical school. They were going to be moving to Arizona, and now they're not. They're going to stay here. Kate's going to medical school locally. So I'm just so thrilled that we are together here tonight, and that Nathan will remain here. And so would you like to introduce Azalea, Nathan, and Mitzi, Jo?
Oh, sure. Okay. A few quick reminders before we get started. Check your cell phones. If you could silence those. And also we have a special request from Joan. If you can't hear us, raise your hand and let us know. Otherwise we're going to keep on rambling.
I will also say, if you are standing room, just to be mindful of the beautiful artworks behind you. And we're very lax tonight with the beverages in the gallery, but be very careful.
Well, the first show we're going to talk about is in the Gamble Gallery, and it's called Azalea. And we have 4 artists coming from different parts of the area. So we have Tampa and St. Pete, I guess. And then we have Mitzi Jo Gordon, who, if you don't know, Mitzi Joe was instrumental in resurrecting our county arts program, which is now called Creative Analysis. And this was, I don't remember how many years ago that was, Mitzi, but 10 years, wow. Let me grab this. So this was a really fun collaboration between installers and artists and artists and artists. And I'm not going to get too much into it. I want the artists to be able to tell, but we're glad that we were able to present this installation. It was originally scheduled to be part of a kind of a very interesting, well, a bunch of art installations called Crab Devil over in Tampa. And that got the kibosh for whatever reasons. And we are glad that we were able to have this installation here, especially during this show of rains and forests and summer. So please welcome Joe, and Kim, and Danny, and Mitzi. Does anyone want to jump forward and speak first? Mitzi, is that you?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I was just saying hi, but I can say a few things.
Okay. How did this show come about anyway, your installation?
Well, thank you, Nathan and Catherine and everyone at the Art Center for taking this on. It's been a really long road, and as artists, I think we each have a personal relationship with Florida's mystery, and it's been so amazing to bring our responses together in this remixed installation, especially for me to work with these great artists who I've known for decades, collectively in Tampa and in St. Pete. It's been a personal experience to be able to put this together. As Nathan mentioned, the show was originally slated to be part of a larger installation that would be several rooms, different shipping containers, all Florida themed and connected. So this started way back in 2019 with an idea and a proposal. And of course, we all know what happened at the beginning of 2020. So the onset of COVID was really the first domino to fall that eventually made it so that project couldn't come to fruition. And we all sort of put our work in storage and put the ideas on ice for a little while. But it's been a great journey to then see that remix and to be able to work together again to present something new. This new collaboration features assemblage, photography, still film animation, sculpture, sound, fiber arts, and more. And it's all original content. All the wall collages are comprised of original photos that were captured during a series of trips to Central Florida's swamps and forests. The soundtrack that you hear are field recordings that were pieced together. And I was especially taken with the tiny town of Casadega, which I know some of my collaborators were as well. Just north of Deltona, Florida, this town houses a large population of psychics and mediums. So visitors come and get readings, they commune with those who passed, and often leave behind personal tokens in the surrounding parklands. And I think you'll be able to see that inspiration in the space that we've created.
Thanks, Mitzi. Hey, Joe, you've got a tree that you made, and just to let everyone know, the things that are hanging from the tree are takeaways. They're free, you can take them. So maybe we won't have a stampede, we can control ourselves. Where did you come up with your idea, Joe?
Well, the Nazar tree. So the Nazar tree is a direct inspiration from the Casadega situation that actually I've been there, but Emily and Mitzi told me about their experience when they were there, and they saw like trinkets left in the woods and objects that are, just that kind of thing. And I was very interested for a long time in charms and good luck charms and that kind of thing. So this tree is a new piece just because of this collaboration. And it's basically a tree that has good luck charms. Nazars are like a traditional Mediterranean and Turkish charm, and it's meant to keep to deflect the evil eye. But in short, the nuts and bolts of all the magic involved, it's meant to be a good luck charm, so keep away bad luck. So I thought, well, let's put it together and let's just let people take them and replenish it every so often, as the show is on display. So that's sort of the root of it. Actually comes from Emily and Lindsay's descriptions of Azalea. And that's the answer to that question.
All right, thanks.
I was going to say something about the cypress knees, if that's okay too.
Oh yeah, of course.
The cypress knees were more of an original idea that was going to go into the original installation. And it was because of one time we had a studio visit, Kim and I share a studio, and a gentleman came in and he described to me a place that doesn't exist anymore. That was like outside of Miami, and it was called the Cypress Knee Museum. And I don't know how many people know about that. Anybody? I know you, John, your head, but anybody else know about the Cypress Knee Museum? Okay, great. Well, there's a guy there. His name is Tom Gaskins, and he was the guy that started this thing. And in short, he would collect the most interesting looking cypress knees that he found. He was like obsessed with them, and if they looked like something, he wanted to display them. So he would like find those ones that looked like one like Marilyn Monroe or something or whatever. And so he would just display these things. But the interesting thing about it was that he had a process of cleaning them and finishing them. It involved chewing off the bark and then licking them. And he had a patent for this. I researched all of this. And so I thought, wow, it was in my head for a long time. I wanted to make a pop-up cypress museum, in honor of Tom Gaskins. And so you'll see there's a little bit of a shift in sculpting in there, which includes actually the teeth and tongue. That's why those cypress trees, some of them have manifest teeth and tongues. And I wanted to explain that because otherwise, I don't know what you would think of me.
Yeah, thanks for the insight. Kim, you made an amazing soundtrack for, it just kind of floats over the whole exhibition, and it has been scaring the kids as they walk down the hall with the thunder. Every time you hear thunder, it could be outside or it could be soundtrack. So, how long did that take you to make?
Thanks. Well, the soundtrack was comprised of field recordings that were gathered by Emily, Lindsay, and myself. So I guess in terms of gathering recordings, I have been filing it roughly several months to a year, a couple of years. There's some concertina music in there, some German bells recorded in Sanford, some shortwave radio taken from the iPhone as
And then I guess the other major part of the collaboration is cabin.
Yeah, well, the majority of the work that I made for this show was inspired by a film studio that existed on the island in the 30s. And a lot of people weren't aware of it. It was very brief. I think it had a history of like a year and a half, 1933, 1934. But there were 3 films made there.
Can you speak up?
Federal agents came.
We can't hear you.
I'm sorry. Yeah, speak a little closer. There were a series of 3 films made there. I'm sorry.
I said pretend like it's an ice cream cone.
But yeah, it was essentially a doomed film studio, and so the animations were inspired by films that were made there.
Okay, thanks. And last in the group is Emily Stone. And Emily, we've been working mostly together, and you created a lot of interesting fabric elements. And that's your background?
My work definitely started in paper. I've been a fiber artist artist for a long time, but I worked in paper for a lot of that time. And then in the past few years, I kind of made the shift from paper to fiber to fabric. And so in this show, the paper piece comes in with the collage that is on the panels. Mitzi and I did those together. And those are all photographs that Mitzi and I took. A lot of those photographs I took like while camping, mostly in Central Florida, and the same with the recordings, like while I was out camping. And then we gathered a lot of sheets and fabric from the thrift store and dyed it and cut it down into long strips and braided it and wove it to the vines that are hanging from the ceiling, and that's to emulate the kind of lushness of the forest, so that you feel like Florida's kind of coming down on you like it does. So yeah, that's the fiber pieces, and then I have a few tapestries in there that I natural dyed, and those are all everything's pretty much recycled materials. But I'm now kind of heading more in a like sewing direction.
So it's a great installation. Take your time through it. There's lots of little knickknacks and goodies and other artworks to see, kind of shadow box pieces. And we want to thank the artists for bringing this gift to us.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Azalea makers, yes. And Mitzi, thanks for joining us. We're thrilled to see your face. And each one of these artists have a varied background in the arts community in Tampa. Mitzi was the founder of the Bluebird Art Book Bus. She also is the founder of Carmada, the project where cars are being painted by artists. Joe was part of Titanic Anatomy, which was an experimental skeleton where some really great makers, places in Ybor City back in the day. So these guys, and Kim, I know there's more, but we know one another less, and Emily, so believe me, these guys are out there doing it, and we're beholden to you. So we're moving on now to the 100 Women Now and Then, and I would like to introduce a Tampa Bay artist, Heather Rippert, who will be speaking about the project on behalf of Alicia Campos Massó, the curator. And is this the second or third time you've been part of the show, Heather?
For me, it's the second time to be in the show, so, no, actually it's the third time, sorry. We had one small one at St. Joseph's Hospital, and then I think this is the fourth iteration, though, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
Tell us.
Yes, I'm so excited to share about 100 Women Artists, the 100 Women Artists in Art History show. It's in the upstairs gallery, so please make sure you get up there to see it. The concept that Alicia Campos Massó originated or envisioned was to take women from art history who have been forgotten, neglected, oppressed, suppressed, ignored, so on and so forth, right? We get the picture. But to bring contemporary artists to recreate one of their images in their own style or vision. So that is the basic concept. And the first show was 2023, in January 2023 at the Spain restaurant in Tampa. And it was just a packed house like it is here tonight. And we're so honored to have the show here. Thank you, Catherine, and thank you, Nathan, for hanging the show. It looks beautiful. I know for myself that it's when I first read Alicia's call to artists about this show, I was like, I have to be in this show. This is so important. We need to elevate the women artists and bring these artists out of the shadows and into the light. So that's really what we've done, and there's just artists from years, all different time periods. So I want to just share a little bit about my artist, who's Hildegard of Bingen, and some of you may be familiar with her, and some of you may not. But if you haven't heard of her, please look her up. She was born in 1098 and she lived to 1187. And in her 81 years, she accomplished so much. She was an abbess, she was a doctor, she wrote volumes of books that were published, she wrote choral pieces that inspired Mozart, and she did all of this as a woman in the Middle Ages. Pretty amazing. So one of the things I wanted to share is my piece in the show is based on her painting called Universal Man. And when I first started to research her, it was the first image I saw. And it's the image of a man standing in a circle with his arms outstretched. Does this sound familiar? Da Vinci's Vitruvian Man, anyone? So that's what I thought immediately when I saw the image. And I looked them up, I put them side by side, and I was like, oh my God. And I was so angry when I read that Hildegard's painting was created 325 years before Da Vinci was born. So, why isn't she a household name? Everybody knows who Leonardo da Vinci is. He's a household name worldwide. But how many of us have heard of Hildegard von Bingen? So that is the whole purpose of this show, is to bring these women to light. So my invitation to all of you here tonight is go look at the show and take a picture of 1 or 2 or 3 of the images that inspire you, and take a picture of the tag, because it has the name of the contemporary artist who painted the picture, and it has the name of the woman artist from art history. So take those names and look them up, research them, and learn something about them, remember their names, and then share it with somebody else. Because we want to move this forward. We want for women to be represented fairly. And also, if you can, talk to one of the artists who has their work in the show, because we'd love to share. Okay, and thank you all for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a fabulous show, and it's really, it's jam-packed up there. If you've been to our upstairs gallery, which is near our studios, our food art studio, our printmaking studios up there, our jewelry studio. So if you haven't been up to that part of the art center alone, just to familiarize with all the other goodies we have going on, but believe me, you're gonna be overwhelmed with these artworks, and we're grateful to every artist who has a piece in 100 Women. Our next artist is Joan Duff Bohrer, and before I introduce Joan and Marjorie, who's speaking about Joan's show, I do want to say I passed over on the Let It Rain show, but we have our honored judge of our Let It Rain show, who represents Joan's work, is a collector of Joan's work, and so it is family here. Allison West Brown, she has an amazing gallery in Clearwater. It's a very special group of artists, and she meets the public by appointment, but the fact that she represents Joan, and we share that Joan is one of our sheroes. And Joan is right here. So Joan is I don't think you mind me saying that Joan's 92, but hey, that's besides the fact that she's been a brilliant artist for most of her life, an arts educator, a real lifelong learner, someone so engaged in ideas. And she taught here, yes, and now I will tell another secret. So I used to be the education director here while I was the curator. That's why I look so ragged. But now my job has been split in half, and it's fairly divided, and I have Nathan now. But what I want to say was, I hired Joan, and I also hired Mr. Stephen Schatz, who is right here in the front row, who is an amazing artist and will be having a show in 2025. But I matchmaked them. And we've been sweethearts for 18 years. So, but without further ado, let me introduce Marjorie Graff Green, who kindly was our curator, and Marjorie.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me in the back? Yeah, good. Okay, so sometimes in life we get a special gift that we don't even know how special it is. And last year, thanks to Lynn, who's sitting right here, and Catherine, I was asked to be the curator of Joan Duff Bohrer's retrospective. And I went in this with a lot of enthusiasm. I have known her for many, many years. We were in FLAG, the Florida Artist Group, and we showed together. But we really hadn't conversed or spent time together. And so this gift, which I totally needed at this time in my life, and I think you appreciate that, Lynn, brought us together, and we were able to go through decades of work, because a retrospective is many, many years of work. Have lunch together. We also bonded over talking about artists that we both like and appreciate, and we were surprised that we both gravitated to the same artists. And also, really, I think we're in sync with our way of making art and viewing art. And that's really rare. You hear the phrase, an artist, and I think that Joan exemplifies that. Her art is her life, and her life is her art. It all intertwines. The first time I was invited into her home, I walked in, and it is one big studio. There is art and art-making materials everywhere. But what did I gravitate to? A huge box of coloring paper, which she got at Trashy Treasures. And I have protected my coloring paper from college. This stuff is valuable and like jewels. So she works with collage, I work with collage. She does sketchbooks, which I taught sketchbook making at St. Pete College for many years. And you will have the opportunity to explore and experience her sketchbooks. And I think it's a window into her life. It's really important that as you look at the paintings, which are amazing and vibrant, that you look at the sketchbooks, because that is a diary of making art every day. The other thing that I noticed after weeks and weeks of spending time with this work is that Joan doesn't make a painting. That is not what she does. She interprets an experience. And one example is the large triptych that you'll see as you first walk into the gallery, which is down to the left. In her home, there's a huge picture window that frames the garden, beautiful Florida garden with palm trees and birdhouses and Stephen's sculpture. And taking that experience of looking through that picture window, and I think you have the use of your meals in front of you, right? There's a little table where she has her meals. She took that experience, something that was inside of her, and created this triptych. And that's how she goes through every painting that she creates. There are also two paintings of a white jean jacket. Now that sounds like a little odd subject matter for a painting. But really, in talking to her, you know, like, how did you pick a jean jacket to make a painting? But this was more or less a symbol of an experience that she had way back in the 80s when she was taking workshops at Penland and other craft and painting studios. And people were casual, and she made friends, and she bonded with other artists, and she was wearing this jacket. So that was like a symbol or a representation of that time of exploration and learning. There's also another painting in the show, which is a view from her studio in New Jersey. She had the attic studio. And this was more or less the beginning of her true commitment to being a painter and making that her life. So there's so much rich history in a retrospective. And I encourage everyone to take time tonight or maybe come back multiple times and really digest what this wonderful, incredible, and I'm embarrassing you right now, I don't want to do that. Woman has presented for all of us to share, but for me especially, to be an inspiration, a friend, a colleague that I never ever expected to make at this point in my career. So I want to thank all of you, Joan, Catherine, Lynn,
So you may or may not know that Marjorie taught at St. College. She retired within the last couple of years. She's an amazing printmaker. She is a collagist. Both Marjorie and Joan were in a show that we had last year called All Shall Be Revealed, and it was about sketchbooks. And I did see the show you did at St. B. College, and it was fantastic on sketchbooks. But these, it's what a great panel of inspired creators. Thank you so much for paying tribute to Joan, who she's beloved for sure. And I also would like to acknowledge those who loaned works for the show. Allison, thank you. Stephen, thank you. Lent a piece, and James and Harry, collectors of Joan's work. So I think there's a few that are available for purchase, but so you'll get a chance to see everything later. Now we find ourselves at the end of the journey here in the home court of Leslie's work here in the Intel Family Gallery. And Leslie Neumann is a friend and a friend of many, many years. We were artists together, and I have watched your trajectory and watched in awe your path to the present. Welcome, Leslie.
Closer. Yeah, how about now? Okay. So I noticed that a lot of my friends and colleagues had notes, but they didn't look at them. So forgive me if I look at mine, even though I practiced my speech many times today. So Catherine and I think we've been friends for 35 years, so that tells you a little bit about us. So I wanted to say that I started my journey, half of my journey of my life was focused on culture. And now the second half of my life is focused on nature. So I grew up in New Jersey, but we were just outside of New York City, and my parents took my brother and me into the city, that's what we call it, the city, for Broadway shows, for musical events, for museum shows. And then later, I moved to New York, and I lived there for 20 years. And I had the great good fortune to go to galleries and museums 4 or 5 times a week for 20 years. It's remarkable. That's why I'm so smart now. And I'm not stuck up either. So. But I got my master's degree too at NYU in fine art. And then while I was in New York City, my life changed forever. I met the late, great James Rosenquist, the pop artist, and he hated it when people called him a pop artist, but that's how he's known historically. And so I became friends with him, and I started to visit this tiny little coastal town where I live now, Aripeka. And because Jim had a house there, as well as an entire building in New York City. So I came to Aripeka regularly, but I have to tell you, never in a million years did I ever think that I would trade my life in New York City for a life in a village of 395 people. But that's what I did, and I did that because I fell in love with nature. I mean, I had a lot of culture by then, so right out of the bat, when I first moved to Aripeka, I became friends with 2 of my friends who are in the audience today, and I credit them and blame them for the next 30 years of our lives together, where we did very intense land conservation. And we formed a local not-for-profit land trust. And over the years, we managed to facilitate the preservation of 15,000 coastal acres.
Thank you, Leslie. Thank you.
And this is primarily known now as the Leaky Watching Preserve. So, during COVID, after we had already given 30 years of our life, we became slower, and then we became dormant. And a couple of us died, so we figured that was good. We made our 30-year contribution, and we're still available. I mean, I had some people from Tarpon Springs at my studio the other day who picked my brain, and so I'm always happy to share whatever knowledge we have. So you can see these are all my paintings in this room, that I paint nature as well as advocating for it and for its protection. My medium is encaustic, which is hot wax. So you see that from a distance, my art looks like a scene, but I invite you, once all the speeches are over, and I'm the last one, to get what I call nose to nose with my paintings, because as you approach the encaustic paintings, they become much more abstract up close because of the material. And so I want to say that I celebrate beauty, and I separate my environmental work from my artistic work. So in other words, I don't make protest art, which is viable and has its place. I just don't do it. I make beautiful art, or I think it's beautiful. I hope you do too. In fact, I was visiting New York City recently, and I had the opportunity through a friend of mine who owns a gallery in New York City to have a beer with another gallery owner by the name of Edward Thorpe, where I always wanted to show. I always wanted to show them. So my friend introduced me to Edward Thorpe, and of course, I pulled out a postcard from my purse. If any of you know me, you know that I'm constantly pulling out postcards of my artwork from my purse. And I showed it to him, thinking, oh boy, this is my opportunity. And this is what he did. So watch my face. I could never show that. It's too beautiful. So Florida has been very good to me. People here sing about my work, so I thank all of you for that. And I'd like to say that I'll be back here in this room on July 17th, and even though all of my previous publicity said it was Friday, it's actually Wednesday, July 17th, from 6 to 7 p.m., and I am really curious to get feedback about my work from all of you, so thanks for coming.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Do we have any questions? You guys were so good. You are right on time. Does anybody have any questions? Yes. Yes. Of Joan's sketchbooks. You know, we posed that question to her. Did she want them under vitrines? And she said, no. You can put your hands on her sketchbooks and familiarize and read and enjoy. Yes. They are available for your viewing pleasure. Anybody else? Any other questions? Yes, Jan?
The 100 Women Artists program going?
Yes, I believe there are going to be some more shows coming, so stay tuned.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Yes.
Just walked out. Good to see you. Oh, hi, Chrissy.
to hold it up. Remember to hold the mic to your mouth. Sorry about that, guys. Anybody else? Okay.
How did you get enamored of the encaustic process? That's something that's really new for me, so I don't have much understanding of it.
You know, years ago, I belonged to a group that's called the International Encaustic Conference, really. I mean, there are different groups. And years ago, when I was having a show at a different institution, I wrote to the person who actually was sort of in charge of all of us getting together and starting to use encaustic. And I said to her, how many of us in the world do you think uses this medium? And her best guess is 2,500.
Wow.
So it's no surprise that it's new to you. And how I started was just a series of lucky things. You know, I lived in New York City. One of my friends had tried wax. She hated it. She said, I hate this. Do you want it? I said, sure. Literally the following day, because you have to paint on a hard surface. These are all hard surfaces. That's so good because you the next day, a friend of mine said, oh, I've been painting on these panels and I hate them. Do you want them? I said, sure. And that was the beginning. But I will tell you, not to plug, but I will plug, if you want to learn it, there's a place up in Kingston, New York, that has workshops. And they make the wax that I use, and they teach. And now they teach in various places too, because they have essentially surrogate instructors. So it's called R and F. So it's R with a and symbol and F. So you might want to look that up.
And Kingston's in the Hudson River Valley.
Thank you.
It's gorgeous. Gorgeous up there. Anybody else? No? Well, we thank you. We thank you. We thank you. We thank you. And we thank you for being here. And encourage everyone to make your way to all the nooks and crannies and don't miss one single bit of art tonight. Thank you for being here. You know what? I do want to say, and I'm sorry now that I'm going to grab you, but this has been a highly charged time at the Art Center. We've had so much change, and you know, and that's the way. But our beloved Todd Still, who has been here 27 years, today is his last day. And he will be coming back to the reception later. So if you see him, please seek him out and give him your well wishes and a big hug. He did so much magic for the Art Center. He was a major force, and we just want to thank him.